صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ما شاء الله.
السلام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من ألف شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر صدق الله العلي العظيم. بسند صحيح عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله.
اللهم صل على
فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. ودرى الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي يا وسيي وخليفتي وصاحب لقائي، قد أذنت لك. ودخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن صالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبألها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فحبت الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يبرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله عليه السلام: يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله حمه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
So, I wanted to talk today about love because, in many ways, we're drawn here out of love. A love for God, a love for the Prophet, love for the Ahlul Bayt. So, what is it, this force that brings us together? In English, we use this word quite a lot during the day for many different reasons. You can say, I love my clothes, I love my food, I love my children. But what is it exactly, this feeling that goes on inside us? Why is it so easy to feel, and yet so difficult to put into words? And when we truly love, it's almost as if there's something indescribable that takes over us. So the best definition that I've heard about this is that it acts as a cosmic glue, a divine cosmic glue. It's that drive, in many ways, that removes the separation between the seeker and what's being sought. So it's the drive, if you like, the power that brings us towards divine oneness. And I wanted to just refer back to Dr. Sajjad's talk a few days ago, where he talked about this Hadith al-Qudsi, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that he was a hidden treasure and he wanted to be known. He loved to be known, and so he created. So really the whole underpinning of existence, our whole raison d'etre of being, is very much founded on two specific attributes, knowledge and love. And knowledge and love underpins absolutely everything that we need to do. And we are given, if you like, the divine freedom to really choose to apply knowledge and love in absolutely everything that we do. So they both go hand in hand. So if I'm going to use the analogy of perhaps the most unconditional love that we have, and it's for our children. We choose our partners. And so there is an element of, if you like, conditionality in that. But our children is something special because it's a bond. No matter what they do, there's something inside us which always is connected to them. It is unconditional. It's as close to the love for God that God has for us is represented in many ways in our love for our children. And given, if you like, the relevance of today and what Imam Hussein went through, what he had to experience, I thought it a relevant analogy. So we love our children, and yet we want the best for them. And if we use these two words, these two attributes of knowledge and love together, what we experience when we see our children, we see them for what they actually are. This divine spark contained in the human body. If we apply that higher knowledge, we say that their children, we know that it's our duty, responsibility to cater to the best for them, without, in some ways, expectation. We see life, the attribute of al-hayy, continue through them. As such, life carries on through them. And if we refer to higher knowledge, then there's a very good chance our children grow up to be well-adjusted, happy individuals. When we don't refer to this higher knowledge, what happens is that we sometimes introduce our own expectations. And with expectations come disappointments, and then issues and disruptions, and if you want, conflict. So really, and if we apply the same to knowledge, if we just want to seek knowledge for the sake of knowledge, it can become quite dry. But if what we seek in terms of knowledge is driven by this passion for the divine, the passion for God, the passion to see the higher in everything, then we realize that whatever we learn helps us unveil to see, as Imam Ali says, God's hand in everything at all times. So really, what is our ultimate responsibility when it comes to love? Really, what is the truest form of divine? The divine purpose is love. And I once heard a saying that we cannot be a real believer unless we see that spark of divinity in even our worst enemies. And I want to retell a traditional story that I heard from Alhamdulillah, which I've heard from one person, and I know the person who said this to be a real lover of Hussein, a well-educated scholar, and he said as follows. He said on Ashoor, when Imam Hussein lay wounded on the floor, and Shimmer came to sit on his chest and was about to sever his head. Imam Hussein looked at him and said, Shimmer, give me water. And Shimmer laughed and scoffed at him and said, why should I give you water now? My job of mine is almost done. And Imam Hussein said, Shimmer, it's not for me. If I wanted water, I could tap the ground and ask for it. And he tapped the ground and he said, look, and a small stream appeared next to him. It's so that when I go to face my Creator, I can see at least one good thing for you. And to me, that is the absolute perfect example of divine love. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I want to read to you, this is At-Tisa'a Munajat al-Muhabbin from Imam Alayhi Salam, which is the whispered prayers of the lovers. In the name of God, you're merciful, you're compassionate. My God, who can have tasted the sweetness of thy love, then wanted another in place of thee? Who can have become intimate with thy nearness, then sought removal from thee? My God, place us with him whom thou hast chosen for thy nearness and thy friendship, purified through thy affection and thy love, given yearning for the meeting with thee, made pleased with thy decree, granted gazing upon thy face, shown the favour of thy good pleasure, given refuge from separation from thee and thy loathing, settled in a sure sitting place of thy neighbourhood, singled out for true knowledge of thee, made worthy for worship of thee, whose heart thou hast captivated with thy will, whom thou hast picked for contemplating thee, whom thou hast made empty for thee, whose breast thou hast freed for thy love, and whom thou hast made desirous what is with thee, inspired with thy remembrance, allotted thanksgiving to thee, occupied with obeying thee, turned into one of thy righteous creatures, chosen for whispered prayer to thee, and from whom thou hast cut off all things which cut him off from thee. O God, place us among those whose habit is rejoicing in thee and yearning for thee, whose time is spent in sighing and moaning, their foreheads are bowed down before thy mightiness, their eyes wakeful in thy service, their tears flowing in dread of thee, their hearts fixed upon thy love, and their core shaken with awe of thee. O he, the light of whose holiness induced wonder in the eyes of his lovers, the glory of whose face aroused the longing of the hearts of his knowers, the furthest wish of thy hearts and of the earnest. O utmost limit of the hopes of the lovers, I ask from thee love for thee, love for those who love thee, love for every work which would join me to thy nearness, and that thou makest thyself more beloved to me than anything other than thee, and makest my love for thee lead to thy good pleasure, my yearning for thee protect against disobeying thee. Oblige me by allowing me to gaze upon thee, gaze upon me with the eye of affection and tenderness. Turn not thy face away from me, and make me one of the people of happiness with thee and favored position. O responder, O most merciful of the merciful. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
بر محمد والے محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على
اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے اترے تھے اس زمین پر عرش بری کے تارے. اے چاند کربلا کے اے چاند جلوہ گر ہے ہاشم کا چاند یہاں پر. خیرات روشنی کی لے لیجیو یہاں سے. اے چاند کربلا کے اے چاند اس زمین پر رکھیو ہمیشہ ٹھنڈک. سوتے جو ہیں یہاں پر زہرا کے ہیں یہ پیارے. اے چاند تسنیم و سلسبی لو کوثر کے ہیں یہ مالک. مارے گئے جو پیاسے اس نہر کے کنارے. اے چاند کربلا کے مارے گئے یہیں پر بے دردیوں ستم سے. مسلم کے دونوں پیارے زینب کے دونوں بیٹے. اے چاند کربلا کے پامال ہو رہی تھی قاسم کی لاش رن میں. عباس اور سرور چنتے تھے ان کے ٹکڑے. بازو کٹے یہیں پر عباس با وفا کے. اذن بغا نہ پایا پانی بھلا نہ پائے. اے چاند کربلا کے اس سرزمین پہ گزرا سرور پہ یہ بھی صدمہ. سینے پہ کھائی برچی ہم شکل مصطفیٰ نے. اے چاند پانی پلانے لائے عذب ملا نے تیر ستم لگا کے کربلا کے گردن چھیدی پسر کی بازو چھدا پدر کا دونوں تڑپ تڑپ کر پیاسے جہاں سے گزرے چاند کربلا کے شہزادہ جناحی مالک ہے کربلا کا کس کی مجال آئے جب تک نہ وہ بلائے پہنچا ہے کربلا اے لوگ صبت جعفر اے کاش پھر مقدر ہم کو یہ دن دکھائے اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے اور محمد والے محمد صلی اللہ
تو مل کے بلند آواز سے درود بھیجیں گے۔
نہیں سوتے ہیں اصغر بند آنکھیں کیے کب سے پڑے روتے ہیں اصغر سانس الٹے جو آتے ہیں تو گھبراتی ہے بانوں سانس الٹے جو آتے ہیں تو گھبراتی ہے بانوں شبیر کو جا جا کے مظلوم کے پرچم کیا کہنا، مظلوم کے پرچم کیا کہنا، کونین پہ سایہ ہو کے رہا، ہر ملک میں ماتم ہو کے رہا، ہر قوم میں چرچا ہو کے رہا، مظلوم کے پرچم کیا کہنا، کونین پہ سایہ ہو کے رہا، منزل تھی جہاں پر پیاسوں کی، معبود کا جلوہ ہو کے رہا، منزل تھی جہاں پر پیاسوں کی، معبود کا جلوہ ہو کے رہا، جس خاک پہ خون کس کا بہار، جس خاک پہ خون کس کا بہار، اس خاک پہ سجدہ ہو کے رہا، مظلوم کے پرچم کیا کہنا، کونین پہ سایہ ہو کے رہا، جو داغ تھا دل تک آ کے رہا، جو شمع تھی آنسو بن کے بجھی، جو داغ تھا دل تک آ کے رہا، جو شمع تھی آنسو بن کے بجھی، لیلا کی مرادیں ختم ہوئی، لیلا کی مرادیں ختم ہوئی، تقدیر کا لکھا ہو کے رہا، مظلوم کے پرچم کیا کہنا، کونین پہ سایہ ہو کے رہا، ایک شمع تھی اجڑے خیمے کی، وہ بھی نہ رہی تاریکی میں، ایک شمع تھی اجڑے خیمے کی، وہ بھی نہ رہی تاریکی میں، جس سے کہ بہلتی تھی بانو، جس سے کہ بہلتی تھی بانو، خاموش وہ جھولا ہو کے رہا، مظلوم کے پرچم کیا کہنا، کونین پہ سایہ ہو کے رہا، تقسیم مقدر کی دیکھو، آباد کیا یوں جنگل کو، تقسیم مقدر شبیر کا صحرا ہو کے رہا، شبیر کا صحرا ہو کے رہا، عباس کا دریا ہو کے رہا، مظلوم کے پرچم کیا کہنا، کونین پہ سایہ ہو کے رہا، خیموں کا دھواں جب ختم ہوا، خاک اڑ کے ہواؤں میں پھیلی، خیموں کا دھواں جب ختم ہوا، خاک اڑ کے ہواؤں میں پھیلی، ہر طرح سے شہ کی خواہر کا، ہر طرح سے شہ کی خواہر کا، میدان میں پردہ ہو کے رہا، مظلوم کے پرچم کیا کہنا، کونین پہ سایہ ہو کے رہا۔ فاتحہ۔ جب تیر سے اصغر کا گلا چھد گیا رن میں، جب تیر سے اصغر کا گلا چھد گیا رن میں، پرخون ہوا کرتا بھی شلو کا بھی بدن میں، بسمل ہوئے آغوش شہ تشنہ دہن میں، بس جان بحق ہو گئے ایک چشم زدن میں، منہ کھولے سے اور نرنا سا من کا بھی ڈھلا تھا، پیکاں جو گلے میں تھی تو پیکاں میں گلا تھا، صدمے سے کلیجہ ہوا شہ کا تہو بالا، لاشے کو لیے بیٹھ گئے سید والا، پھر ہاتھوں پہ ڈھل کے ہوئے گردن کو سنبھالا، اور تیر کو حلقے علی اصغر سے نکالا، رقت نہ ہوئی ضبط شہنشاہ زمان سے، گردن سے لہو بہنے لگا دودھ دہن سے، کیا داغ دیا باپ کو اے یوسف ثانی، یہ حلق چھدانا یہ تیری تشنہ دہانی، مر کر بھی نہ بھولے گا ید اللہ کا جانی، بچپن تیرا اور اکبر محرو کی جوانی، دو زخم کلیجے میں ہے تم دونوں کے غم سے، وہ برچی سے مارے گئے تم تیر ستم बर्छी से मारे गए तुम तीर सितम से। ऐ अकबरे मजलूम के आई अली असगर, ऐ सिफ्ते पैगंबर के फिदाई अली असगर, बदले मेरे जा अपनी गवाई अली असगर, तकलीफ गज़ब तुमने उठाई अली असगर, पानी न मिला खून में कर हो गए बेटा, तीर आया तो बाबा की सिपर हो गए बेटा, जब तीर से
सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين، صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بثنائك، عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وحقي النهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، ويا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. If one were to summarize what happened at Karbala, why it happened, what was the Imam doing, just a few reports and just a few things before I get to return to the topic. What did the Imam himself say? He said that he had risen to command the good, forbid the evil, so that he could effect an islah fi ummati jaddi, so that he could set right the community of his grandfather. He could make them salih. And why was this? It was because his community, the community of his grandfather, had been afflicted by two evils, two related evils. The first one is indicated in the last communication that the Imam had with his brother Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya. And it is one of those typical statements of eloquence that you don't expect the Imam to say. He said, فكأن الدنيا لم تكن وكأن الآخرة لم تزل. That's all he said. He said, it is as if this world never was. And it is as if the Akhirah always is. That's the nature of reality. This world is nothing. It's all about everlasting life. It's about the everlasting presence
of the divine. The other thing which explains what it is that the community of his grandfather was afflicted by is indicated right at the end in Karbala. When the Imam famously says to people, he says, "Why are you killing me? Is there another son of the daughter of the Prophet amongst you?" And in response they said, "We hate your father." Hatred of Ali was the problem. Incapable of understanding the nature of reality and incapable of appreciating the presence of the divine. Those are the two things. And that is why the Imam stood up. I want to also just read some lines from the only Masa'ib we actually need. And these lines are from the Imam of our time. And he also tells us that when he commemorates his grandfather, he cries tears of blood. The Imam says this, he cries tears of blood. So I just want to do some of these phrases from the Zat Nahi al-Muqaddasa. Peace be upon Hussein, who sacrificed his everything in this way. As-salam al-Hussein alladhi samahat nafsahu bimujdihi. Peace be upon him in whose soil God gave shifa. As-salamu ala man ja'ala Allahu al-shifa fi turbatina. As-salamu ala man al-ijabati tahta qubbatin, under whose dome everything is answered. And then he says, As-salamu ala al-murammil bid-dima. Murammil means golden, one who is completely soaked in blood. Bid-dima. As-salamu ala al-mahatuk al-khibar. Peace be upon him whose tents are violated. As-salamu ala khamis ahli al-kisah. As-salamu ala gharib al-ghuraba. I didn't translate that. As-salamu ala shaheed al-shuhada. As-salamu ala qatil al-anbiya. The one who is killed by those who are illegitimate. Remember what Ali Akbar said, we will not bend to the son of someone who is illegitimate. Ibn al-Da'i. As-salamu ala sakin Karbala. As-salamu ala man bakat malaikat as-sama. Peace be upon the one whom the angels in the heavens cried upon. As-salamu ala al-juyub al-mudarrajat. The ones whose chests were bloodied and opened. As-salamu ala al-shifa al-thariyat. Salam on the parched lips. The shifa, parched lips. As-salamu ala al-ajsad al-aliyat. Peace be upon the corpses who were stripped of their clothes. As-salamu ala al-jusum al-shahibat. Upon the bodies left like that. As-salamu ala al-dima al-sa'ilat. Peace be upon the gushing blood. As-salamu ala al-ru'us al-mushalat. Peace be upon the heads raised along spears. As-salamu ala al-niswat al-barizat. Peace be upon the women who came out and their head coverings were taken off. There's so much more in this, yeah. This is enough. Do we really need anything else apart from this? Salawat. also remind us of the adab. It's the night of Ashura. So what are the adab of Ashura? I mean, we all know this, but again, it's a useful reminder. On this we have famous narration of Imam Baqir alayhi salam. Imam Baqir says, whoever visits Hussein on Ashura and weeps, when he meets God on judgment, he will meet him with the reward of 2,000 Hajj, Umrah, and having taken part in battles with the Prophet and the Imams. And someone asked him, Ja'altu fidak, what if someone is far away and cannot reach there on the day? And the Imam said, on that day, go to a wilderness, or go to the roof of your house and make a gesture of salutation to the Imam. Curse his killer and pray 2 rakahs. And do this before noon. And then after noon, mourn Hussein and weep over him. Encourage everyone in your household to weep over him. Show sadness and grief over the calamity of what befell Hussein. And every time you meet someone, weep over Hussein. Encourage others to weep over Hussein. We do this on the day of Ashura by saying, أَضَمَ اللَّهُ أُجُورَنَا وَأُجُورَكُمْ بِمُصَابِنَا بِأَبِي عبد الله الحسين وَجَعَلْنَا وَإِيَّاكُمْ مِنَ الطَّالِبِينَ بِثَأْرِهِ مَعَ وَلِيِّهِ الْإِمَامَ الْمَهْدِي مِنْ أَهْلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. We say this. This is how we meet each other on the day of Ashura. And then again the guy says, and if I do this, then what? He said, Imam Baqir, I guarantee this reward. I guarantee this reward that God will give, because I know that this is what is due that person. So there is a great significance of this day. And as I said, what I've been trying to say all throughout this is, I've been talking about presence. Presence upon a journey. Presence in beauty. Presence in the face of God. What that requires of us, how we recognize it. And I want to take you to a culmination so that we understand what the goal of that journey is. What is the goal of that feeling of presence? This is precisely why I chose Surah Al-Fajr to end with. Surah Al-Fajr itself, as I said yesterday, is a surah directly associated with the Imam. But the surah itself, if you read it very carefully, it is the Masa'ib of the Imam, from beginning to end, from the oaths all the way to the end. Now, there's 2 parts left, really, that I want to talk about. And I will read the verses. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. كَلَّا بَلْ لَا تُكْرِمُونَ الْيَتِيمَ وَلَا تَحَاضُّونَ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ وَتَأْكُلُونَ التُّرَاثَ أَكْلًا لَمًّا وَتُحِبُّونَ المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجاء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذاب أحدا ولا يوثق وثاقه أحدا يا أيها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. So there's three parts to it. The first part, which is continuing the discussion of people who make the wrong choices and the punishment. There's two things which are mentioned first and two things related to it. People who fail to honor, treat orphans with karama, and who fail to help feed the poor or help the poor more generally. And it says in an explanation of that in the next two verses, because they devour their inheritance and because they love wealth. They greatly desire wealth. It's their almost their raison d'être. Now, the explanation of this, which is given in some of the tafasir, is very interesting. It's in some ways reversing the way in which people in that community, in that society, understood the notion of karama. People often understood karama as wealth. So someone who has a lot of wealth has karama. What's being said here is that having wealth is not karama. Karama is dignity and respect. It's about how you treat other people. True karama is not about the wealth that you have. It's about the wealth of your character. That is true karama. And then you need to apply that to those who are often considered to be weak and insignificant, such as the poor and the orphans. In many ways, the whole point of this surah and where I'm trying to take us to is the realization of being an abd, being a creature, being a servant of God, that you can be min ibadi, as God says. A realization of a person who is free of selfishness, who is both free of humiliation in themselves, but also free of humiliating others. And not someone who seeks wealth and status and has a love of property. The mention of the orphans here is not incidental. It is not accidental. As I mentioned, this surah is about the Imam. And one of the things which is often said in the commentary on this is that the reason in particular why orphans are mentioned here is because of a very famous hadith of the Prophet in which he said, the one who honors and protects orphans will be with me like this, side by side in heaven, in paradise. This is why it's being said, if you give orphans karama, you are bringing upon you the presence of the Prophet, and you are guaranteeing the presence of the Prophet in the afterlife. It's a very important privilege. And of course, one of the things which is often said in the commentary in these verses as well is that when it comes to not giving dignity or karama to the orphan or the poor or those who are deprived, or taking away what is due to them, or taking away their inheritance. So one of the points about the orphan which is mentioned here is that they eat into their wealth, they take away their inheritance. The obvious implication here is we're talking about the rights of the Ahlul Bayt. It is about those who who basically usurped their inheritance. It is about those who turned the walaya and the presence of the divine, that was the right of the Ahlul Bayt, into a notion of rulership and denied them their rights. The political issue of rulership is not that important. It's that they decentered them from the community. As I mentioned before, they made the hatred of them central to their lives. They didn't give them their due and place them where they should be. They were unjust to them in that way. And that is a very important point, that these verses about the orphan and the poor are really about that. And the love for the wealth, I mean, we know this is very simple. Why was Omar ibn Sa'ad in Karbala? Why was he in Karbala? Because he was promised the governorship of Iran. That came with plenty of wealth and status. He was willing to make that deal. He knew perfectly well who the Imam was. But his love, as the Quran says here, for wealth was hubban jamman. He had such intense desire for that wealth, for that status, for that position, that he didn't care about that. And he did not care about usurping the rights, the Imam, and he did not care about violating the rights of the orphan. So that's the first part of the second half of the surah. And then it continues that how it is then that God will judge these sorts of people with angels right. And the sinners will say, if only we had done something to prepare for this life. If we had sent something for them. And their punishment will be severe precisely because of what they did to violate the rights of the poor and needy and of the Ahlul Bayt, and because they completely failed to take the hand of the Ahlul Bayt towards the goal of being an abd. They completely failed it. And their regret was too late, because they took the world as everything. They took the pleasures of the world, they took the world as a game which they should enjoy. They considered the world, as the Quran often says, to be a place of lahu and nar, right? Of kind of pleasure and kind of play. They didn't consider the afterlife. As the Imam said, this world is nothing. It's as if it never was. The afterlife is everything. And they will regret it. And within this context of the regret of the sinners, there is a hadith from Imam Baqir alayhi salam, in which he says that, this is about the scene of judgment. It will be an awesome one. You have the angels in ranks. People will be fearful. And people will run around saying, nafsi, nafsi. They will only be concerned about themselves. The Prophet, however, will say, ummati, ummati. And the Prophet will look out for those who are his. And the Prophet will help those people, and with God's grace will take them across the salat. I mentioned this yesterday. It's the love and the walaya of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt which will take us across that very thin, thinner than a hair, sharper than a sword bridge into the afterlife. And the others will be running around as if they don't know where they're going, and they will have no help because they failed to take advantage of the presence of the divine. And then we have this last section, and there's much which could be said about this. What does it mean to be a nafs mutma'inna? And about the order, it's the nafs mutma'inna, and then it says, return to your Lord, radiyan mardiya, pleasing Him, being pleased by Him. And then it says, enter amongst the ranks of my ibad, my art. And then finally it says, enter into my paradise. So the order is important, and also the intimacy of mine is important. Ibadi and Jannati is important. And there's many things which could be said about this. But I will just say a few things. One is, the feature, in the context of the whole surah, the feature of a nafs mutma'inna is one who is not attached to this world. This is very important. Is not marked out by the tughyan and fasad of the tyrants who are mentioned earlier. They do not reject the gifts of their Lord. They don't engage in kufran and ni'mah. And they are at peace with and obedient to God and forsake and put aside sins. They're at peace with the zikr and the presence of God and His friends. They have yaqeen, they have certainty, and they have, they verify, they have tasdeeq in their heart as well of what is truly real. That sort of nafs has a sakina in the heart from God and expresses rida with what He has said. That's why it is radina, mardiya. Now, of course, there are different. Again, I don't think it's appropriate to go into that, but there's different ideas about the stages of the nafs and how you get to the nafs al-mutma'inna. You start off with a nafs which is attached to the world, and you have to detach it so that it moves towards itminan. And that in itself requires much more discussion, but I'm not going to focus on that. I just want to say something about the irji'i, and then come to a kind of holistic reading of it. One of the features of the entirety of creation is what's known as the kalimat al-istirja', inna Allahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We come from God and we are always returning to God. This is just a normal state of everything that exists. But there is a special intimacy of irji', because in this, God is actually addressing the nafs and saying, return to me. It's almost like a request. It's God requesting the pleasure of the presence of that nafs. That is something completely different from the standard nature of the cosmos, which is coming from God and always returning to Him. Coming back to that everlasting life without any accounting. There is no hisab involved in this, because God is requesting you to come. There's no hisab in this at all. Once you are at that level of being the nafs. Now, of course, we have a number of narrations which say what this whole kind of cluster of verses at the end is about. And one is to say that by the nafs mutma'inna, here of course is ultimately it's the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt who are being addressed. Because they're the only ones who actually have that rank about which there is no doubt. It is a rank that we wish to emulate by making them present, but we can never be sure we have that rank. But their rank is without any doubt. But how do we try to approximate that? So the question here is, what does the radiya mardiya mean here? The Rabi'a Mardiya, and this basically is a cluster of hadith which are found in Tafsir al-Qummi, they're mainly from Imam Baqir alayhi salam. And it's mentioned that Rabi'a, sort of pleased, in this sense, pleasing, is about walaya. It's about the walaya of the Ahlul Bayt. And the Mardiya is about being pleased with God's reward. So walaya is what you have done, and its reward is the fact that you're then pleased with God and moving towards God in that sense. And then entering ibadi, my servants, my ibad. The ultimate reference again here is to the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. And if you enter into that, you're entering into the presence of them. You're entering amongst them. And then my Jannah, the last thing which is mentioned here, is the intimacy of the divine presence in the afterlife. It is a specific higher level of paradise. It's not just paradise. Because, God could have said, enter Jannah or Jannah or whatever. He's saying my paradise. So it's a particular association. Now, another element of these verses is that it's referring to a call that everyone hears at death. So the idea is that a believer will always hear these verses when they are dying. This is very important. Every single believer, a munadi will cry out this, and you will hear it. This is what the Tafsir says. The angels will say it to the believer and the righteous person. The believer will not fear death. Why will they not fear death? Because they will see the Prophet, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Fatima Zahra, and all the Imams. They will see them present. How can a person possibly have any fear? They will see them at their death. So that's the ultimate sense of where that nafs mutmainna is. And of course the tafsir also says this is specifically something that the Imam himself heard. And because he was the ultimate reference of it. As I said, the way in which Quranic verses work and the way in which we kind of engage with them, we have different levels of experience. The way in which the defenders and the guardians of the Quran engage with the Quran is quite different to how we engage with it. They live the Quran in that way. In that way, Imam Hussain lives those verses. He hears his verses, but he also lives them into the highest levels of paradise. Now, I cannot go there. It's the night of Ashoor, and it's very difficult to talk about what happened to the Imam. But I want to take you a bit further just before. There is one sacrifice in Karbala which is unique. And it is indicated by the fact that what is the kunya of Muhammad? What is his name? His name is Abu Abdullah. Who is Abdullah? Who is Abdullah? There are two names for the same baby. Some call him Al-Yasir, some call him Abdullah. Same person. There is a secret in the fact that the Imam His punya is based on it. And there are many other things which makes a sacrifice important. One is that without us, there is no Imam al-Hujjah. It's the final stage of the Imam saying this, okay, I've given you everything. Right? I've made my case, I've given you everything, this is the final stage, this is the Imam al-Hujjah. And it's also the fact that this is the sacrifice which creates the greatest grief. And we know grief and tears are ones which soften the heart and make us more inclined towards the obedience of God. There is no person on this earth who cannot be moved by what happens to us. There's not one person. We know that this happened in the army in front because they started crying themselves. There is nothing that is more moving. And further on, the grief of us is so great that we're told in some of the Muqaddim that even the prophets and the angels were weeping. Even the prophets and angels were weeping. This is a great, great secret. Now, what happened at the time was everyone has been martyred, everyone has been killed. And the Imam praises, he raises a call for help. And then he says, is there someone who will protect the women of the Prophet? And we're told that from the tents there's crying. The Imam goes to the tent and he says, okay, they say that this child is convulsing and he's not staying in his cradle. So the Imam says, okay, give him to me. I'll take him. Maybe the enemy will feel some pity on him. Maybe give him some water. He takes him out. And, it's famously said that people thought that he wanted to come to arbitrate. And he was maybe bringing the Quran. But when he opens his abba and he shows there's a baby there. And the baby they can see has parched lips. And the Imam puts him down on the ground, on the burning sands. And it's as if the baby is like a fish out of water. It's like flipping on the hands. And we're told that some people in the army started crying. But still there was no water. So the Imam lifted him up. And of course at the same time, Ibn Sa'd was worried about what was happening. So he says to Hurmala, stop this, stop what is happening. And we know that Hurmala puts a three-headed arrow in his bow. And this is a sort of arrow that you use to kill camels. It's from the heart of camels. And he lets that arrow go. And that arrow pierces the neck of the baby. And it sticks into the arm of the Imam. And the Imam collects the blood in his hand. He puts some of the blood on his face, and the rest of the blood he throws up into the air. And not a drop comes down on the ground. But the Imam is now with this baby who is being slaughtered. And this is the only shaheed where the Imam hesitates what to do. He's not going back to the tent, he's not thinking about what to do. He's not calling anyone because he doesn't want anyone to know. And so he goes back and forth. And this is something we do tomorrow. He goes back and forth. But what can he do? He's in this state of grief himself. So he says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. He's going back and forth. How does he take this baby back to his mother? This is the state of his hifz nafs mutmainna. And so he takes the baby behind the tent and he buries the baby behind the tent. And one thing we are told that happened, one of the greatest of Zulm, was in the evening of Ashura, when the enemy collecting all the heads of those who they had killed, they say, "Where is the baby?" So Ibn Sa'd sends out men with spears, and they throw the spears into the sands of Karbala. And they eventually, behind the tent, come out with the body of the baby, which they then cut off and raise on a spear. I can't continue much more, but I just want to say one thing. What is the state of the Imam after everything that has happened? What is the state of the tents? Why is it that when he then asks permission from the women to go, why is it that they don't want to leave him? They are crying, someone is touching him, they're all around him. And the simple thing, there's this one thing which Zainab says breaks the heart. And as the Imam goes, she just says one thing. She says, Go slowly, Ibn Sa'd. Go slowly to Sa'd. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.
मैं झूला झूलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, मैं ख्वाब में असगर तुझे, मैं ख्वाब में असगर तुझे लोरी भी सुनाऊं, तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झूलाऊं। लौटा सफर से के बड़ी देर हुई है, लौटा सफर से के बड़ी देर हुई है, बेताब हूँ कब से तुझे सीने से लगाऊं, तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, तुझे झूला झूलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झूलाऊं। कोई मुझे बतलाता नहीं तेरी निशानी, कोई मुझे बतलाता नहीं तेरी निशानी, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। सोचा था तेरी सालगिरह घर में करूंगी, सोचा था तेरी सालगिरह घर में करूंगी। तकदीर ये कहती है, तकदीर ये कहती है, तेरा शौक मनाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। बाबा से तेरा जनाजा न उठेगा, बाबा से तेरा जनाजा न उठेगा। रुक जा जरा अब्बास को दरिया से बुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। हाँ ये खून भरा कुर्ता, ये मट्टी में भरे बाल, ये खून भरा कुर्ता, ये मट्टी में भरे बाल। सीने में छुपाऊं कि मैं आँखों से लगाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। इसी तरह कोई रूठ के माँ से नहीं जाता, इसी तरह कोई रूठ के माँ से नहीं जाता। तू खुद ही बता दे मैं तुझे कैसे मनाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। रेहान के लोहे से सदा बानों की आई, रेहान के लोहे से सदा बानों की आई। मैं आंखों से अश्कों के समंदर को बहाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, तुझे झूला झुलाऊं, मैं तुझे झूला झुलाऊं। ये शाम गरीबा है, दरिया की रवानी है, ये शाम गरीबा है, दरिया की रवानी है, ये शाम गरीबा है, दरिया की रवानी है। प्यासे ना रहे बाकी, प्यासे ना रहे बाकी, फिर किस लिए पानी है, ये शाम गरीबा है, दरिया की रवानी है, ये शाम गरीबा है, दरिया की रवानी है। असगर तेरे लाशे को माँ बन के ज़मीं रखे, असगर तेरे लाशे को माँ बन के ज़मीं रखे, मुझ हाय तकलीफ जो जिंदा में बच्ची को उठानी है, ये शाम गरीबां है, दरिया की रवानी है, ये शाम गरीबां है, दरिया की रवानी है। ज़ैनब ने कहा ठहरो मैं दश्त में आती हूँ, ज़ैनब ने कहा ठहरो मैं दश्त में आती हूँ, भैया तुम्हें अकबर की, हाय भैया तुम्हें अकबर की अब लाश उठानी है, ये शाम गरीबां है, दरिया की रवानी है, ये शाम गरीबां है, दरिया की रवानी है। अरे ये तो मुझे लगता है लाशा किसी दूल्हा का, ये तो मुझे लगता है लाशा किसी दूल्हा का, पटका जो कमर में है, हाय पटका जो कमर में है, रंग इसी का तो ढानी है, ये शाम गरीबां है, दरिया की रवानी है, ये शाम गरीबां है, दरिया की रवानी है। हर गम को भुला देंगे, हर याद मिटा देंगे, हर गम को भुला देंगे, हर याद मिटा देंगे। ज़हरा तेरे बच्चों की, हाय ज़हरा तेरे बच्चों की बस याद मनानी है, शाम गरीबां है, दरिया की रवानी है, शाम। असगर भाई असगर, असगर भाई असगर, असगर भाई असगर। 6 महीने वाले तुझको मेरा सलाम, असगर आए असगर, असगर आए असगर, है शाहिदी के दिलबर, असगर आए असगर, है रूह कल्ब मादर, है शाहिदी के असबर, है तिश्ना काम मस्तर, है बेज़बान असगर, है 6 महीने वाले तुझको मेरा सलाम, असगर आए असगर, असगर आए असगर, असगर आए असगर, है तश्ना काम मुज़तर, इधर आए असगर, है बेज़बान असगर, है तश्ना काम मुज़तर, असगर आए असगर, है शाहिदी के दिलबर, है गरहनी के दिलबर, है रूह कल्ब मादर, है 6 महीने वाले तुझको मेरा सलाम, असगर आए असगर, असगर आए असगर, असगर आए असगर, असगर आए असगर, असगर आए असगर।
है नूर नबी दिया किया था, है नूर नबी दिया किया था, ज़हरा दे दिल दा चैन, या हसन या हुसैन मौला हक इमाम, या हसन या हुसैन मौला हक इमाम, या हसन या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन। वो शब्बीर की सीने पे जो शाह के परी, जिसकी आवाज़ में जली, जिसकी आवाज़ में जली, मुकद्दमा चौके निशान, मौला हकीमा या हसन या हुसैन, मौला हकीमा या हसन या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन। वो आबिदे बीमार था, वो आबिदे बीमार था, चलने से जो लाचार था, चलने से जो लाचार था। और शाम का बाजार था, और शाम का बाजार था, और मुस्तफा की बेटियां मौला हकीमा या हसन या हुसैन, मौला हकीमा या हसन या हुसैन।
अस्सलामु अलैका या रसूल अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या नबी अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या खातमन नबिय्यीन व सय्यदल मुरसलीन, अस्सलामु अलैका व अला इब्नतिका फातिमत अज़-ज़हरा सय्यदत निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका व अला वसीयिका व खलीफतिका अमीरुल मुमिनीन अली इब्न अबी तालिब, अस्सलामु अलैका व अला वलदैका अल-हसन वल-हुसैन सय्यदा शबाब अहलिल जन्नह, अस्सलामु अलैकुम व अला तिस्अतिल मअसूमीन मिन ज़ुर्रियतिल हुसैन, अस्सलामु अलैका या मौलाना या साहिब अज़्ज़मान, अस्सलामु अलैका या खलीफतुर रहमान, अस्सलामु अलैका या शरीकल कुरआन, अस्सलामु अलैका या वाक़िअल बुरहान, अस्सलामु अलैका या इमामल इंस वल जान, अस्सलामु अलैका व अला आबाइका अत-तय्यबीन व अजदादिका अत-ताहिरीन अल-मअसूमीन व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहु। اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوى تمتعه فيها طويلا